Hello and welcome to Mysteries of Science. My name's Dan and I'm the editor of the Week Junior Science and Nature, which is the monthly magazine from the team behind the Week Junior.
And I'm Michael, the acting deputy editor. Now, in this podcast, we explore the strange phenomena and bizarre events that have left scientists scratching their heads and, despite their best efforts, remain well and truly unsolved.
Doctor Who returns to our TV screens this weekend for a series of specials celebrating, you'd never guess it, its 60th anniversary. Wow.
I cannot wait. I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. And do you know what I love most about Doctor Who?
What is that, Michael?
Regeneration, which is the reason why the show has been able to go on for so long, because every time it looks like the Doctor's about to die, regenerates, completely changes their body, new face, new everything, and it means they can keep on living.
It's very handy for the show's producers, isn't it?
Very, very useful.
It's like some sort of immortality, I think.
Exactly.
Well, that is something, living forever, something that's fascinated people for thousands of years. I mean, I've often wondered what it might be like to live forever. But got to ask the question, is it actually possible?
Well, Dan, I don't know the answer, but I think I know some people who do. So why don't we speak to some experts and find out?
Sounds like a great idea.
This is Mysteries of Science.
So, Michael, immortality. We were just talking about Doctor Who there, but it's not the only story to have explored the idea of eternal life, is it?
No, far from it. In fact, you can go all the way back to the world's oldest known story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which was written 4,000 years ago and is about a king determined to find the secret to eternal life.
Yes. Yeah, one of my favourite stories as it happens. Yeah.
Read it every night before bed.
Absolutely. And, well, I mean, like, why are we interested in these stories about immortality? And what can they tell us about how immortality, eternal life can be achieved?
Well, why don't we speak to somebody who's written their very own immortality story?
Hello, my name is Ross Welford. I'm the author of The 1,000-Year-Old Boy.
Hi, Ross. Welcome to Mysteries of Science. And tell us, what's the 1,000-Year-Old Boy about?
The 1,000-Year-Old Boy is, it's all in the title. It's about a boy who outwardly looks about 10 or 11 years old, but he has been living since the Viking times, thanks to an amazing potion, I suppose you'd call it, discovered within the mysterious life pearls, and the ownership of a life pearl and the application of the potion within enables you to, well, more or less live forever.
Okay, so in your story, Ross, immortality is achieved through a sort of magic potion, which might not be possible for us. But I wonder, what research did you do while you were writing the book? I mean, were you inspired by any real-life science?
One of the things I discovered was that crocodiles and tortoises are technically immortal. There's a gene called the gene of senescence, which is getting older and dying, wearing out, and nearly all animals, nearly all living creatures have this thing of senescence, where eventually, I mean, assuming, and this is kind of what happens to Alfie in the book. He's not technically immortal, because if somebody stabbed him or cut his head off or something, he would die, just like you or I. What he doesn't do is what most creatures do, is get older and wear out. So even if you or I didn't get sick of anything, we would eventually, round about 100 years or something, we would eventually just wear out and die of old age. Crocodiles don't do that. They don't have that gene. Now, and hence they can, in theory, they can live forever. And the same with tortoises.
Yeah, I know exactly what Ross is talking about here. In fact, I've got a really great quiz for you.
Okay.
Do you know what the oldest living animal is?
No. Well, I'm guessing based on what Ross said, it must be either a crocodile or a tortoise.
Yeah,
one of those two.
Good clue. It is actually, I'll tell you, it's a Seychelles giant tortoise, but even better question, the follow-up question is, can you guess when it hatched?
Well, if it's the oldest animal, it must be a long, long time ago.
2001.
2001? 1905?
Not a bad guess, but it's actually much older than that.
Ooh.
Are you ready for it? I'll
Go
tell
on,
you.
go on.
Jonathan, the giant Seychelles tortoise, hatched in 1832.
Wow. So 191 years old?
Yeah, 191 years old.
Wow.
Amazing.
And the name Jonathan as well. I love it. If I had a Seychelles giant tortoise, that's the name I would give it to.
I had a tortoise once.
Yeah.
Do you know what I called it? Stone.
Stone?
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for that?
Just looked like a
Looked
stone.
like a stone.
Yeah.
Like,
But
there
I
you
should have called it Jonathan.
Jonathan's
Peter
clearly
or-
the way to go. Yeah. So it seems like animals might have cracked the secret to immortality already then.
Yeah, because it's not just crocodiles and tortoises either, but jellyfish too.
Ooh, tell me more.
Hello, I'm María Pascual Torner. I'm an environmental scientist and doctor in marine sciences, and I've been studying jellyfish for around 13 years. What I do, especially the last 6 years, is to study aging in marine organisms, in marine species, and especially in jellyfish. What we do is to try to see the molecular mechanism, so what happened inside the organisms that can potentially give these characteristics to live longer or to rejuvenate, like the immortal jellyfish.
Hi, Maria. Thanks for joining us. So tell us, the immortal jellyfish, why is it called the immortal jellyfish? What makes it immortal?
Yeah, so first we need to explain the general life cycle of a jellyfish. Most jellyfish have a polyp stage, which would be like a coral polyp or an anemone, a very little anemone, that reproduces asexually and produce medusa, so the stage that goes free in the water. This medusa reproduces sexually and generates a new polyp. And after the reproduction, it dies. It ages and dies. But the immortal jellyfish, what it does is that after reproduction, it can transform the whole organism, can change to a new polyp again. And in this process, we call that rejuvenation. Yeah, that's why it's called immortal jellyfish.
Okay, let me get this straight here. Most jellyfish die after reproducing, but the immortal jellyfish actually rewinds the clock and can go back to being a baby again.
Exactly. Hence the name immortal jellyfish.
Brilliant. That is absolutely amazing. And it can do it again and again without any limit.
We actually don't know that. It has to be proven. But if we assume that they generate a new organism, so that the medusa rejuvenates to polyp, it will be no ending. But we need to prove that. We don't know that.
So it's a mystery. I wonder though, Maria, what can we learn from the immortal jellyfish that might help us humans to live forever?
Well, what we learn from studying this jellyfish is that this process is very, very complex. There's many factors that are involved. So trying to find just one gene or one solution would be very, very risky. So we need to keep studying the process. And so if we keep studying the key factors and mechanisms that are involved, and also try to do more studies in cells and in model organisms, studying this jellyfish could help us to humans to better understand aging, and also the diseases that are related to aging, which are, for example, neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer or Parkinson, and cancer, for example. So studying this process and studying the immortal jellyfish could give us clues to better understand these diseases too.
Oh, it's just amazing to think that animals like jellyfish could hold the secrets to help humans fight off diseases.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
this.
But I mean, it seems like there's still a lot we need to uncover about the immortal jellyfish before we can sort of harness its abilities for our, our own good. So, Maria, what would you say are the biggest unanswered questions about the immortal jellyfish that you and your fellow scientists are trying to get to the bottom of?
How it just how it does it, how it does the process, and if it's really going to putting the clock to zero, or there's some things that can be accumulated, and maybe what you asked at the beginning, if it can do this eternally or not.
Something that Ross mentioned earlier was how immortality had limits. So in his book, Alfie, although he wasn't aging, he could still be killed. So he was immortal, but he was not invulnerable. Is that the same for immortal jellyfish?
Yeah, I like to mention something because I'm environmental scientist, so I like to see the global story. um, when you say what we can learn about this jellyfish is that um, it seems like that it can rejuvenate. So it seems that it can have biological immortality. It could have, but this jellyfish, um, it's not isolated. It lives in an ecosystem, and in this ecosystem, it dies because it have predators. It have other species that they compete for space. So when you see these species in the ocean, they are not very very abundant. So there's something that maybe not. Um, you have to take into account the whole story. So, what happens from the individual to inside, and also what happens from individuals to outside. So, what are the relationships with the other species? And if you take into account the whole story, this jellyfish dies. So, it means that studying the immortal jellyfish is very interesting to understand aging and maybe help people, but in nature, all species have that they die.
That's a really good point Maria has raised there, because just because you may be immortal and have this, or perhaps have an ability to regenerate, it doesn't mean that you're protected from everything else that might happen. Things that are going on around you can affect you, and and the environment which you live in.
Exactly. I mean, what good is being able to live forever if you've got nowhere to live? And it makes me wonder, I mean, is immortality everything it's cracked up to be?
Well, it's always that thing, isn't it, Michael? We think of it as being something that we'd all like to do, but you just scratch the surface a little bit and you realise that it could well be a curse. Living forever could well be a curse. And Alfie, of course, realizes this. He realizes that living forever has meant that he has seen, poor kid, he's seen everybody about him die. Got to pop him his mum, who is also a never dead. He's seen everybody die. You see an awful lot of death if you live to be 1,000 years old. And it's very hard for him to make friends. There's episodes in the book where you realise that one of the beauties of growing up, and one of the beauties of childhood, is growing up with your friends and growing older with your friends. Alfie doesn't have that. He doesn't. He has always been denied that, and that's the one thing that he wants. He wants to grow up.
Oh yeah, that's quite sad. I hadn't quite realised that. And yet, despite this, all your friends and family dying off, people's fascination with immortality just carries on. I mean, you've got tech billionaires like Jeff Bezos, you know him? off Amazon.
Off Amazon.
Yeah. And Mark Zuckerberg, who's the boss of Meta. They're funding research into all these anti-aging technologies, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, given what you just said, Ross, how does that make you feel when you hear stories like this?
I think that I kind of feel a bit sorry for them, really, because it's not possible. You know, what are you going to? You freeze your head, and you're going to come back in a few hundred years' time, and they may have the last laugh. You know, in 500 years' time, they'll be going, see, I told you. But I somehow doubt it.
So, well, maybe in 500 years' time, one of our immortal listeners will let us know the answer. They can dial in.
Exactly, yeah. Hopefully we'll all still be here. But don't feel like you have to wait 500 years. You can get in touch with us right now as well. We would love to hear from you. Would you like to live forever? To leave us a voice note, head to funkidslive.com/mysteries and hit the big red button. Or you can email us at hello@science-nature.co.uk.
And don't forget to join us in 2 weeks' time when we attempt to solve the world's oldest murder mystery and find out just what happened to Otzi the Iceman.
Until then,
stay curious.